This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Everyone is telling her she dreamt it, but in The Woman in Cabin 10, Lo Blacklock is determined to uncover the truth. In the gripping new thriller coming to Netflix October 10th, Keira Knightley plays a journalist aboard a luxury yacht who witnesses a crime she can't unsee. Adapted from Ruth Ware's best-selling novel, directed by Simon Stone. Watch The Woman in Cabin 10, only on Netflix on October 10th.
Anyone can follow. It takes something special to be an original, which is why the 2025 Lincoln Navigator SUV arrives with new ways of surrounding you in luxury, including the ultra-wide 48-inch panoramic display and the multi-sensory Lincoln Rejuvenate experience. A true original never stops evolving. So meet the 2025 Navigator, the original that's all new and better than ever. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Lincoln and Navigator are trademarks of Ford or its affiliates.
Welcome to Connects with Jonathan and Mark. This is a different episode and one that I think I'm pretty happy to talk about because, you know, when we do these episodes, you see the first part of me helping an unsolved or missing person case. But sometimes it could take years to get something from someone. And I always preach to people that, like, you know, coming on the show, even with law enforcement that I talk to off camera about these cases, and they agree, any attention is good attention on these cases. And you're about to hear about a case I worked on about 4 to 5 years ago that now someone finally stepped up. So this case happened in Virginia about 3 decades ago, and it's still an unsolved case. This is the case of Connie Hiner. She lived in Virginia. She was very successful. You know, she was basically on a new chapter in her life with finding herself, new job, everything. Like, she really, I guess you could say, like, turned a corner. You know, sometimes in life, including myself, we all get in slums and then you see a glimpse of light and you go towards that. And then you just start sprinting and things start, you know, really falling into place, which is like the best feeling, I'm sure, for everyone, including myself. But in January, on my birthday, January 3rd, 1996, pretty much everything changed. She was found murdered inside her own home. There was no forced entry, no clear motive, and there's no arrests that have been made as far as today. And this case, like I said, sits pretty heavy in my heart. And the reason why that it does is I spoke to Brittany, the daughter of Connie, 4 or 5 years ago, actually on the Kate Casey podcast, you know, Reality Life with Kate Casey. And when I spoke to Brittany, it was such an intense reading and she was such a great person. And she asked me at one point, because I did the reading and I gave a lot of information, but at the end of it, you know, I always say to people, do you have any questions or anything like that? And I always assume it's going to be towards the case, like any, you know, specifics that they want me to address that maybe I didn't address in the reading. And she's like, do you think this will ever be solved? And I always try to be honest with people. I mean, I always try to give people the honest truth because I don't want to tell someone something and give them false hope. And I said to her, I go, you know what? I'm like, I do. And I go, it's going to be so random, like so random. It's going to be years later. Something so random is going to open up this case and you're going to get the closure and the answers that your family deserves. And this is on top of the ring that I gave her, where 4 or 5 years later, someone finally stepped up and said something. So guys, let's jump into this right now. I want to explain to you who Connie was before I even get into the specifics of the case, because I think that's pretty important to know who you're going to be hearing about and who I spoke to and everything along the lines like that. So Connie was 48 years old and she lived in Virginia with her husband, Bob. She built a career in real estate and finance and was known for her intelligence, ambition, and her drive. After taking some time off in 1995 to focus on self-development and personal growth, Connie was excited to start a prestigious new job in real estate in Trust, Columbus, Ohio, a move that promised a fresh start both professionally and personally. And I want to explain to you why this is very important. The reason why this is very important and stuff that I discussed on Reality Life with Kate Casey and even off camera was this whole restart that I was like talking to you about. She was in this slump. She was in like I said, like I guess you could say dark times, like we all go through it. So she went to this self-development group. Later on, it kind of looked like and turned into a cult. And I'm not saying that just because like we throw the word cult around all the time, and that's not the case. I'm fairly sure this was now recognized as a self-development, self-help cult group. And the reason why that's important is certain people close to her were also involved in this. They all did this, like they all partaked in this group. The reason why I'm even talking about this was because of Connie. Connie kind of put herself in this and she wanted to move and she wanted to have a restart with her job, with everything. And as you guys know, and if you don't know, certain cults and groups like this don't really want people to move. They want people to stay where they are, keep paying their dues, keep being involved and stuff. So for her to have this ambition, which is amazing, to get a new job, to like do a restart is very important to this case. Now, I want to get into the final hours because I want to paint a picture of exactly leading up to her passing, what happened in her passing, because I think that will paint a good picture for everyone. So on New Year's Day, 1996, Connie and Bob, and just so you guys know, Bob is Connie's husband, attended a dinner party with friends. By all accounts, they seemed, all good. Connie was upbeat, talking about her new job and the year ahead and like kind of what lies ahead for her and how happy she was. The next morning, January 2nd, Bob left for work around 7:10 a.m. Now, I want to highlight something before I continue. I want you to remember this. Bob left for work around 7:10 a.m. Connie had arranged for a taxi to pick her up later that morning and take her to the airport for a business trip. Around 8 a.m., that taxi arrived. The driver rang the doorbell, knocked, but no answer. Connie did not come to the door. Sometime later that day, Bob returned home and made a horrifying discovery. Connie's body was lying face down in their bedroom. She was naked, and she had been stabbed and bludgeoned to death. Why this is important and why I told you to remember about the time that Bob left for work. Now, as I said to you in the beginning, that it could take 4 or 5 years for someone to step up and say something. I received an email from someone, I'm not going to say who it was, and I'm going to get into it a little bit later on, but I received an email from someone later on who worked with Bob and basically made a very big statement and they showed proof and everything. It wasn't just like a theory, like she worked for him and said that he never came to work, and never came to work when he did really at that time. And the timing of that day was different than what is claimed over here. And that's why this is important, because the reason why that I'm saying that is the timeline of things, of him not really coming to work, basically will rip open this case to say that there could be involvement, like things that they, I think, looked past because they were so focused on just trying to find the killer that they didn't really focus on talking to people in the office.
Getting ready to step into your career era? Set yourself apart with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Hone your skills with apps like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and more, powered with the latest in creative AI. Students save over 55% so you can build a portfolio you're proud of. Launch your future with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Visit adobe.com/students to learn more.
Adobe Acrobat Studio, so brand new. Show me all the things PDFs can do.
Do your work with ease and speed.
PDF Spaces is all you need.
Do hours of research in an instant
With key insights from an AI assistant.
Pick a template with a click.
Now your prezzo looks super slick.
Close that deal, yeah, you won.
Do that, doing that, did that, done. Now you can do that with Acrobat. Now you can do that
with the all-new Acrobat. It's time to do your best work with the all-new Adobe Acrobat Studio.
I want to talk about the crime scene now. So the scene raised a lot more questions than it answered. There were no signs of forced entry. Connie's purse was still in the home, her car remained in the garage, and her suitcase was packed, ready to go to that business trip. The autopsy showed no evidence of sexual assault, which is huge because people always assume when there's, a murder case with a woman who is nude that there's some foul play in that realm of things. The fatal injuries were focused mostly on her upper body, suggesting a brutal and targeted attack. Investigators believe she was likely killed while she was still asleep. And perhaps the most puzzling part of this all is whoever killed Connie did it in a so very narrow window of time after Bob left for work and before the taxi arrived. Now, again, I want to go back to the email before I get into the theories and suspects, because when I did the reading, and you guys can go back to Kate Casey's show, I spoke a lot about who I thought had involvement and did things. And I also want to reference, there's two things I want to highlight. The first thing I want to highlight is that cult or that self-help group that they were a part of, whatever. Like I mentioned, and I've spoken to people that were in cults, and from personal readings to the Nexium stuff, everything, to leave a group is like a cult is pretty difficult, and they will make your life miserable. That's just, I feel like, a common thread that I've learned from doing these readings from people in these different groups, cults, whatever. Now, the email. I want to read you a part of the email. I can't tell you who it's from because I don't want to expose anyone. That's not what I'm here to do. So basically, someone reached out and said that they Googled the Connie case, and they often wondered what happened because they strongly felt, and I'll explain to you who the lead suspect is and everything. I mean, this is all out there at this point now, was the person who committed the crime. And the reason that they believe this to be true is because they worked under the lead suspect, and this person had never seen him come to the office ever. And here he is walking in the morning of the murder before 8 a.m., possibly around 7:30 or so. This person said something to their coworker, and they were both shocked. They have no idea what the conversation was because Bob spoke to the boss, but the person that was there and spoken to, they're going to be speaking up soon, and I can't say their name. Basically, this person is saying later on in the email, because I can't give specific details, that the reason that Bob came, and Bob is the ex-husband, so this is the lead suspect, and I will get into that. So the reason that Bob, the lead suspect, Connie's husband, who never came to work around the time of 7:30, 7:45, and Connie was probably murdered at 7:10 from what they suspected, to have an alibi. That's the biggest thing, because they have proof that this person, Bob, never came to the office, never did, and especially at that time. So I want to read to you the theories and suspects that people have, and you could take for it what it is, and that's up to you guys. I'm not going to force you to believe anything. I think you guys should do your own research, should look up this case. But when I did the reading 4 or 5 years ago, when the name Bob kept coming up to me, or Robert, I felt like there was something very important surrounding Connie's murder with this person. So her husband was considered a person of interest. Though he has never been charged, some theories suggest that there's tension in their marriage and a possible, which I think that is, for some murder cases, that's a big thing. But this second part is also a very large thing for other murder cases, is a financial motive, but nothing concrete has ever came from that. Police have also connected one of Connie's ex-husbands who reportedly lacked a solid alibi. And there's the possibility that someone from her professional world, an unhappy former employer, or someone with a grudge may have been involved. But despite these theories, no one has ever been arrested and no definitive suspect has emerged. Now, it's hard to really speculate, right? It just is. So when I did the reading, again, the biggest thing that I saw was Bob is someone that should be spoken to, looked at. And it was focused on that for a little bit. And I don't remember the exact details of the reading because it happened 4 or 5 years ago. But there's other names I'm sure I brought up. But Bob is the lead theory and the lead suspect, it seems. And a huge thing, guys, a huge thing that like people always asked is, why was she killed? Who could have entered the home without a forced entry? How did the killer manage to slip in, slip out without being noticed, kind of? So the case leaves far more questions than answers. And Connie's family, Brittany, who I spoke to, still hopes for justice. And the Fairfax County Police continue to keep the case open, which is huge, waiting for that one piece of information that could really reveal the truth. And that's why this email is so important. So if you know anything about this murder case or any details, like please reach out to the Fairfax County Police. Like this is pretty huge if you guys could help out. And this person who emailed, they are reaching out. Like they are going to do their part. And that's my thing, to always do your part. And I just can't believe that 4 or 5 years later, someone stepped up and is saying something. And I think that's so amazing and so huge. All right, guys. Thank you for listening to Connect with Jonathan Mark this week, guys. It means everything to me. And I really hope you enjoyed this episode because I love giving updates on cases that I've worked on 4 or 5 years ago or 4 or 5 months ago. And please do not forget to follow my social media, my Instagram, my TikTok, my YouTube, my Facebook. It's all Jonathan Mark Medium. I'm giving updates on all these cases as much as I can. And if you have any cases that you're affected by or you want to hear about, please leave a 5-star review and put in the comments or send an email to connectjonathanmark@gmail.com. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.